Welcome, everybody. This is class 15 for this season, this particular group of sessions. And we're going to talk about a nifty pattern that I learned about the bug and the pattern from a guy I met on the Metolius River, probably about, I'm thinking 10 years ago. He asked me to tie the Sculpin pattern, and he said, "Do you know how to do that?" And I said, "No, I don't know how to do that." They said, "Well, can you figure it out?" And I said, "Yeah, well, I'll bring the materials back tomorrow." So I did. I brought the materials back, and I ended up kind of muddling through it and tied the Sculpin pattern. And I've been hooked on this pattern ever since. So it's really a really neat bug, and this sculpin, I had to look up all the different places that this sculpin lives, and cold water, clear streams. North America is just loaded with them, and trout eat them. So no wonder somebody developed a pattern for it. So the female is, she lays her eggs kind of underneath a shelf type rock as soon as what they make a shelf. And then she does her thing, and then the male runs her off, and he protects the eggs until they hatch, which is kind of different. And so I kind of like that whole deal. And the guy's doing the work to raise the babies, but they're prevalent, and the trout eat them. So, and they sometimes they'll be right in a real fast riffle. So it's not necessarily a slow, what I thought was a slow area in the river, and they can actually be underneath some of these volcanic rocks. So you can fish this and put it on a sinking line. So if you just, it could be even a lake line, you can cast it out and then let it sink towards the bottom and then fish it that way. So other than that, I'm going to go ahead and show you a picture of it. If you don't have any questions. This is the fly, and because it's a little fish, and even the description of in encyclopedia shows all these stripes and stuff, all this modeling, and so the pheasant feather is really, really good for this particular fly. And so I have several versions here I want to show you beforehand. This I used the very end of the tail as squirrel tail. And this one, of course, I dropped it. I tied it a little shorter. And you can see the modeling there. And this little guy, I don't know why the design has a yellow body, but it says you can tie it in any of the colors. It can tie it in red. This one I think I like the best. So I'll use this style tonight. And I used, it's a little more streamlined, which, and I think because I was practicing, I did a little better job tying it. So this guy right here is just a little bit longer and more stiff feathers, fibers in the back. And I used moose mane to put that in, so that's not in the recipe. I'm going to go ahead and get my hooks ready. And I'll show you what I do to keep track of my hooks. This is a TMCO size 2, and for nymphs and streamers. And then the other size, which is the size I'm going to use now, is a size 6. It's a 2X long. So this is the one I'm going to use for our Sculpin. But what I do is I use these little heavy metal trays. And what I do, because I can't remember what size hook I put in there, I use those little stick-ons that are tabs that you use to mark pages with if you're reading a book or whatever. And then I just write the hook and the size on these. So if I got 3 of these lined up and I'm doing several different flies, then I don't have to remember what size is in there. So that's my basic method. I'm going to go ahead and put a hook in here. Now, material selection. I'm going to move to my other camera here real quick. Well, not too quick. It's like, this is the pheasant that I've been pulling all the feathers off of. And this is the moose mane that I'm going to use for the tail. Now, these guys right here, when you're selecting these feathers, you kind of have to really just grab them. You pull them up like this so you can see what the end of the feather looks like. And we're looking for something like this right here. We want these. These are the kind that we're going to look for. So you just kind of move them out, move them around, and pull on it. And then up comes the right feather. So I'm going to show you that and how it comes off of here. Change cameras again. So you can see all this fur. Let me get a little bit closer here. It's got a lot of under fur right here. So you pull this off. Get rid of it. You don't need it. Because this has layered different layers of that same feather, then you have to get rid of all this fuzz stuff. So you just rip that off. Well, because you have to have sets of these, I figured out a handy dandy way. If you use, these are sticky pads that like a notepad. And this is such a nice light little feather. And I had to make enough to, so I don't have to, you don't have to sit through me trying to fix all these feathers and get them ready. And demo tying 101, try to be ready for your class. I just stick them to these. There's a little glue where you normally put this on the back of a sticky or a computer or a notepad. You want to remember something. I use the opposite to have the feathers already done. So if you're doing a lot of these, you can use these and have them all lined up and ready to go. So you don't have to go root around for stuff. So that's the way I'm doing that today. Now, so the back end, I'm going to pick out 2 of these feathers that I've already gotten squared away. And get some, I'm going to tie with yellow thread. Now the directions say yellow. I mean, they say black, but I'm going to use yellow. And the reason why I'm using yellow is because I've got a yellow body. And I found that even though the pattern directions call for black, they want a black head, but I don't want that black thread showing while I'm tying. I mean, you can see it, and it disrupts the whole look and feel of the bug. So I changed this to yellow to make the body and tie all the feathers on, and then we'll do the black head when we get to the finished part. I want to make sure that my is this you guys can see this all right? Mm-hmm. Yes, I hope. Yeah. Okay. So we get this done. The back two feathers, they want to be pretty much the same size. So if you start looking at how big these feathers are going to be, you're going to need two of each of the same size. So you're going to look at the tail material is this moose mane. I'm going to go off camera for a minute and clip some of this stuff. Now what you do is, because this is pretty wiry, so in order to stack it, just hand stack is the best way. So you just grab it like this, hang on to it, take the ends, pull, and then marry it back up. We saw that in the last demo we had last Thursday. I'm going to do this until I get everything pretty matched up. It doesn't have to be perfect, because this is kind of a fanny type tail. It should fan out. So you see how uneven it is here. And then I've got a pretty even thing. I'm going to do this one more time. And that's pretty close. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we're going to have. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to make it. It looks like I've got a kind of a white one right here. I'm going to get rid of that. I want all these fibers to be dark. And I'm going to do a little measure. I want the tail a little longer than the hook shank. I'm just going to measure it out there and get rid of that one long one. Change hands. That's going to be nice and long, I think. What I do is I do a loop around the bunch and then pull it down on top of the shank. That way it doesn't go spreading around all over the place before I actually crank down on it. Check the length again. And right now is where you usually break the thread. I'm going to try not to do that. And before I get too far down, I'm going to, instead of battling this, I'm going to go ahead and trim these before I finish. That way I don't have to worry about anything getting into that hook eye. That's all I'm doing. The underbody doesn't have to be perfect. You just need it secured. And there's our tail. Now I'll take the last two and I'm going to look at these and see where they're going to match up. I want this feather to spread out. So if you mount it and then pull, it does this to the feather. It crunches it, and you don't want it crunched. You want to make it the right length to begin with. So I'm going to look at this and make sure that this tail sticks out beyond the end of that feather. So I'm going to tie that down. Check it out to see if it looks right. That looks pretty good. Got just enough coming out the back there. I'm going to take a second feather that, if I did this right, I've already sized it. Put it on the other side. I see it's twisting a little bit on me, so I'm going to put it back on again. There. You can manipulate these a little bit to get them to lay straight. See how that both of those are the same wing, like a bird. The wing is coming out there correctly. So now that I've got them there placed, I'm going to go ahead and tie down on them. Pull them around if I have to. Good, they stayed there. Sometimes you don't know, right? I'm going to go ahead and cut off this excess. Don't need those. Turn around this way and cut this one off. That looks pretty good. So now you need to get some of the body going, which is the first layer, first section. And what I use is, this is Clark's, yeah, big help if I turned it right side up. This is Clark's tying yarn. It's kind of it's called gold, but it's yellow. And so what I do is, because it is still, this is what it looks like when it comes right off the, right out of the package. But because if you go ahead and use this, this gets too fat. So that means that all of the fins of this fish want to poke way out and spread out. So what I do is I split it, and I don't need to go through that process with you. All you guys know how to do that. So I basically split that yarn in two. Just use a bodkin. So I do a little loop around here, place it on top. And I'm just going to slide it through for a bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off, like I like to pre-cut off materials. If you know you're going to have to cut stuff up here, why not cut it off before you get into the battle around the eye, the battle of the eyes? So I'm going to cut that off ahead of time. Now, when I tie it down, all of these feathers cover up this guy anyway. So I don't have to mess with that. So then we wrap it. If you have any questions as I go along, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask. Look a little ways down the body, about half. That's where I'm going to tie in the second set. I'll call them fins, the second set of feathers. I'm going to leave this tag on because we're going to do two sections here. Now I'm going to get another two set of feathers that I've pre-done. And I'll show you what happens when they're not the right size. So these I think are going to be a little bit too long. So I'm going to take one of them off. Hold it up here. But what we don't want to do is we're going to tie it in right here. And we want it to be so it doesn't cover up the second wing. I mean, the first wing. So you really want it to come back a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, this is my tie-in point, I'm going to pull off a few of these. And then mount it back on here. And see how they end about part of the way up that feather. So that's kind of where you want it. So I'm going to tie that down and take a look at it. Let's twist it a little bit. Getting to look a little better. I'm going to take the second one off and see where it ends up. And looks like that's going to end up a little bit too long too. I'll pull a few fibers off. Nice part about this bug is that if it's not perfect, the fish still eat it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You can see how that one ends before the other one starts. So I'm going to tie this down a little more. Get rid of the ends. Looks pretty good. Now I'm going to move my thread in front of this Zelon. We're going to make the second section. When I first saw this pattern, I go, why are they tying this feather in backwards to begin with? Well, it becomes obvious after you tie it down. Wow, wait a second. Because this is a fun pattern, you know, I have so many of the PMDs and dry flies and stuff that I tie for my husband. The same fly over and over. I get bored with it, and I just feel like, it's just too many. So I stop and do something different, like this one, for instance. Now these two that I picked out are, I'll show you, they're wider. I left more of the feather there. See how much feather there is there? Because when you flip it back over, it has to end up right in here somewhere. So, but you're tying it in way up front. So you put this guy in and you face it, the cup side wants to be facing out, because when you flip it back over, it faces in. So I'm going to tie this first one in for you. Look at it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now I get the other one. Tie it in. You can maneuver it around because it's got such a long, you leave these long pieces in there so you can move it. I was cutting them off really short before I tied them in. Then I realized, I needed them to be able to move the feather. I know that looks weird. When you look at this, see how they're splayed out over here? That's what you want it to do. I'm going to come around and go ahead and tie this down and cut these off. Excess. And here comes the fun part. You bend them back. And if you guesstimated right, it'll look like a fish when you're done. Otherwise, it won't look like a fish. Got a few extra there. See how that just laid back? I got lucky. There's a few extras around here. I'm going to clip those off. I guess the more you tie the a pattern, I think it was AK Best said you have to tie 200 of the same fly, and then you've got it after you've tied 200. I go, oh, great. And I finally did that 10 years later. See how that came out? It does look like a fish. I'm going to go ahead and put a whip finish on this. And change threads. Because I want this guy to have a black head. You could probably take a pen, a permanent marker, and just color it in. But I want to build this head a little bit. And I don't know why, because the Sculpin really has kind of a flat nose. And if I could figure out a way not to do that, make it look a little bit more like the flat end of the front of the fish, I would. But I don't think the fish care, because you can still catch fish with this thing. I'll go ahead and whip finish this. And I think it needs a glossy, kind of a shiny head. So what I'm going to do is let Sally help me out here. Of course, I tied that feather down on top of that. It's not as good as I wanted it to be. Yeah, that's pretty good. Still looks like a fish. And I think I'm going to try this somewhere in Montana this year and see what happens. I don't know. I don't know, Dick, do they have sculpins in Montana?
Sherry, I don't know if he's going to answer or not, but there's a lot of sculpins in Montana.
So you do know that for sure, huh?
Absolutely.
Have you fished a Sculpin pattern?
Many times.
Good. Well, we're going to be fishing, and hopefully that came out pretty good. Not as good as the other one. That's because anytime you're doing a demo, you're always concerned about making a mistake, which you make them anyway. They don't come out. Sometimes they don't come out as good as the last one. So anyway, that's my pattern. So do you guys have any questions about this guy and material selection?
Yeah, Sherry,
Yeah.
I'd be real tempted, that when you put that last wing on,
Mm-hmm.
to right behind before pulling that wing back, to put some sort of a bulgy type stuff that makes that front wing, which really is a gill set,
Right.
stick out a little bit, and it'll work the water. Because most of those sculpins almost have fans coming off the side of their
Yeah.
bodies, and they
Because
almost walk with those front.
it's bigger around, like right here.
Yeah, because this looks like a more of a minnow shape.
Well,
And-
I want to show you one other thing, which I think was pretty interesting. I have a little water tank here, and I'm going to show you what this thing looks like when it's wet, which is, to me, more interesting than the bug itself. I'm serious. Look at what that looks like when it gets wet. It's got all these colors. I mean, I thought, well, this whole thing collapses. I'm gonna take this one and see what happens when I dunk this guy in water.
And the underbelly of a sculpin is kind of a whitish yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they look kind of dirty yellow too.
here's that same, let me get this in front of the camera. That's the one we just tied. Let me see if I can get it in focus here. This is the one we just tied.
Yeah, your camera
And,
focuses on your neck.
yeah, it's like, maybe I need to put it right here. There we go. That's what it looks like when it's wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and of course, because these are all loose, when you move the fly, it's going to flow a little bit, but not much. It'll pretty much stay close to the body like that. Let's see the other side. I
Sherry,
always put stuff in a tank. See what it looks like.
Sherry, in the instructions, it calls for 4 pheasant semi-church feathers for the front feathers.
Mm-hmm.
You only put in 2.
I put in 3 sets.
3 sets.
Yeah, the
Okay.
one at the very back, and then the one in the middle, and then the one in the front.
Hey Sherry, this is Jerry.
Yeah.
I've seen a pattern. I haven't tied it, but I saw someone tie, with the windows like this. And what they did is they had a bead right about, maybe a bead's width away from the hook eye, and then they put that last set in front of the bead, so that kicked them out, like Jim was talking about.
Because the jaws of the
Yeah.
sculpin are like they got the mumps or something.
Yeah. So and what it does, it kicks those feathers out and makes it look like those front fins. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I was
That's
thinking,
nice though. Yeah.
I might do is I've been, to making the body skinnier in the back, I've been dividing that Zelon. So maybe the first set of Zelon that we put in the back is a split one, and then the front is a full one. So it makes this whole part right here flip out. you know, bulge out.
Now, did it call for those front feathers, did it call for the church window or did it call for the rump? On this on the recipe.
I don't know. I pulled up several. Let me look real quick and see what I can find here. I had some other copies of it. Yeah, here it is. I don't like stealing somebody else's stuff, but I do it all the time. Hans Willman. This is his pattern that I pulled off the web, and it says 2 feathers from the lower body of the cape, and then chenille, and then middle body wing feathers, and then the front are wing feathers.
Okay, if you go to your table with your materials with that pheasant skin,
Okay, let me scoot over there real quick. And we can tie another one. Gonna take off my tying glasses so I can see.
Hey, Sherry, did you get that out of the tires page, which was the old Danica fly tying?
Oh boy, I pulled it off such a long time ago. I
Okay.
don't know where I got
Okay,
it.
well, I
Yeah,
can
'cause
say
I've
that the
had it
old,
for
yeah,
too long.
yeah, the old Danica fly tires site is now called the tires page, I believe. It has an unbelievable list of tires from all over the world, and it's done very, very well.
okay,
Okay.
Sherry,
Let's talk about where the feathers are,
Yeah,
Jim.
yeah,
now move your hand right up towards the head a little bit, right there.
Yeah,
Okay, you see those right by your thumb and finger there? Those are the church windows.
yeah.
yeah,
And well, I think when they called for that one of those feathers, I think probably it said the middle body.
yeah. Let me
That's
see what,
probably what he's talking about. Either that or the ones that are slightly more tan and brown up right up in above them.
like these up here.
Yeah, that would be the upper feather that he's I think referring to, and the ones that have the more reddish with that shape of the church window, and those down below, the real low ones there are the rump.
Do you suppose he used 3 different areas, like these back down here in the very back where
Yeah.
the ones, of course, these are the ones that look like the picture.
Well,
Okay. And of course, I was going by that.
yeah,
So maybe this is reversed. In other words, the first feathers should really be these middle cape feathers. See how the picture has like a white ring there? So maybe these guys need to be the first feathers, and then these right here that I've been using through the whole tie would be the front feathers.
Reversed.
See,
Well-
yeah. maybe
I
we
would-
should try that.
I'd save those bottom feathers for a Doc Spratley.
Yeah, but these birds, I just absolutely love the bird itself,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the versatility of the pheasant. That's why I ended up getting so many skins. And this one I just started in, but I've already mutilated another one that doesn't. It's not displayable, put it that way. It's like I got too many. So anyway,
Sherry, it's Robin.
yes, Robin,
Where do you get those skins?
any fly shop will get them for you, and they're
Okay.
cheap, which is good. Just tell them you want a pheasant skin, or you can just log on to any of their, let me get back to my camera
And you
setting.
want the rooster, not the hen.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
But the hen is great for, the wings on the hen are great for some of the caddis pupas.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
love the bird because
Yeah.
as far as investing in them, I think they're about $25 or something.
Really? Something like that.
They're cheap. And so you think, well, this is a lot of feathers. And I thought, wow, why are they so cheap? It's because so many hunters hunt them. Pheasant hunters all over Oregon for sure. But these skins are available. And that's what's really good about it is they become cheap and then it's inexpensive for the fly shops to buy them for $10 a piece.
There's a place in outside of Maupin, Oregon, just east of it, that they stock the birds there for hunting, and you go out with their dogs or your dogs and hunt, and you can pay. It's a pay to play type of place. And after you come in with 5 or 6 pheasants,
Mm-hmm.
they all take them into this room and they just rip the crap out of it just to get rid of all of the feathers off the meat. And I'm back there saying, save those tails,
I love it.
and if you got a skin with some rump, because, usually those are younger birds and their feathers are not quite fully, you don't get the length and the color
Mhm.
that you would on an older bird, but to see the amount
Sherry?
of stuff goes to
Yeah.
waste.
Is that Jerry?
Sherry, I just checked online and eBay has those pheasant skins for $18.
There you go. And of course, I fell in love with bird because number one, I was trying not to spend too much money, and that was stupid. I ended up spending too much anyway. But I thought, wow, there's lots of feathers on that. I didn't know why when I first started buying them, but I blew through one of those in short order. And so I was using, of course, a lot of pheasant tail. And then the whole skin became exciting every time I looked at anything. And you can even make soft tackles out of those. Those feathers are so soft.
Well, those white ones along the upper neck,
Yeah.
the ring neck, if you first dye them a brilliant yellow and then dip dye them real short time
Mhm.
in a orange, it's a good imitation for Indian crow.
These right here.
Yeah.
Oh, well, because the size and the shape is right.
Yeah, and the Indian crow feather is not sharp at the end. It's rounded more.
Well, these have a
So-
black ring there, though.
Yeah, but the Indian crow actually has it almost, some of those will have a black tip on it. You don't
You
want
yank one of
those,
those off of there.
but the base on an Indian crow is usually almost a
Look at that.
dark color.
I just ripped a couple of them off of there. Look at that's the round.
And
you're
if you
saying?
just dye them in yellow, you've got toucan.
Oh, toucan, or how does it?
Yeah, whatever that bird's called.
What is toucan? Toucan, toucan, I think. Yeah. Well, this is really good information.
Which makes
But-
great body veilings on Atlantic salmon patterns.
Well,
If you can't afford the originals.
I knew there was a reason why I loved the bird, and then when I started designing my flies, my steelhead flies, I had to do something with this beautiful bird, and so using the pheasant was a good thing.
And that reddish orange down along the flank, that one
Oh.
with long fibers on it, that one is used on the a practitioner,
Oh,
laid flat across the top,
well,
Yeah.
that's before I didn't even know why these when you started me out with this classic Atlantic salmon flies. Yeah, I was I didn't know what I was buying what for. And I'm still trying to learn that. I haven't figured it out yet. but I'm working on it. I just have way too much fun with this stuff. And learning, of course, I'm going to go back to doing the streamer thing. I just thought because I wanted to go with program, I wanted to do something with streamers. So this is the hook we're using. I'll review that a little bit, size 2. So the fun part about this is getting too many materials was easy for me because I absolutely love materials. It might be a woman thing, could be,
Hope not.
but well, I'm sure it is. I mean,
Well,
it's like,
when you look at my room,
oh, that's right. It's a man thing too, and a woman thing, because we're in it together because we love the materials. And so I couldn't resist, oh my goodness, that skin. Can I have that skin? So Dennis Dahlke would be selling these skins at the different shows. And I just say, oh, that is so buggy. I got to have that. I get home, I got one already. So I got, I have like 2 grouse skins that, how am I ever going to use that up? But anyway, that's another story. I'd like to do, one of my favorite things is being creative and tying things that don't look like anything. So it's another thing that if I get bored with tying something that looks like a real bug, then I just get my Marabou out and go, let's go do this. So what I'm going to do today is do one of my favorite things to do, which is playing with streamers and Marabou. And because I tied so many streamers of some sort, because I was into woolly boogers and anything that would be in a lake for quite a long time. And then of course on into steelhead. So as I moved through my tying interests, I really got a lot of Marabou. So if I go in a fly shop and I'd see, oh, look, I don't have that color. And I would get that color. And then I'd take it home and I'd make all kinds of different weird, different patterns. But knowing that so many of these fish that are just want something to grab onto, like a steelhead, oh, that's in my nose, so I want to get rid of it. So the steelhead will grab anything, a bass will grab anything. So in my little handout, it says, streamer, you just changed the hook. Put the same material back on, but change the hook. And that's all you really need to do with these streamer patterns, because you're going to be after a bass or a steelhead or a trout, whatever. You do more placid, like woolly booger style stuff with Marabou, and you make your woolly boogers. So streamers become in your life as a fly tyer. If you want to catch fish, you better be able to tie these streamers. And they're also fun because they're so much easier to tie than some of these intricate size 18, 22s, and 20s. I can tie a streamer a lot faster than I can at size 22. Anything, really. It's like, ah. So let me go back to my camera.
Okay.
And all I've done right now is laid a thread base. Change glasses. Now for someone that's creative and you like color, which I absolutely love color, I'm going to show you the fly that we're going to put in water a little bit later. This we're going to do this today, and all I've done is I've got some guinea up here in the front, but this is all Marabou. And when you dunk this puppy in water and then you start moving it, it just comes alive. It's just like, and it looks like a lot of food. And that's what's so interesting about it. Marabou is when it collapses in water, it becomes this little wormy looking thing. And there's a lot of worms and bugs and things that move in the water, and the fish eat them. So marabou becomes your friend.
Kind of
Now-
close to the one in my picture here.
Oh, is that right? So this guy right here is all it is black, and you can't tell that the lighter part pieces in here are actually olive, but on the screen it doesn't come up very olive. So I'm going to give you a treat here, which is really a lot of fun. I'm going to tie one in a kind of a different color that I was looking at, because this is just so much fun. I found this stuff, which is basically, Hairline started doing this dipped marabou. So it's got one color up here and you got the dip tips. And I thought, well, I got to be able to do something with that. Well, it turns out that I kind of got a little bit crazy with colors. And so the colors and the tipped marabou got kind of strange. And I thought, well, I'll just do some more of that. And I came up with I ran into a guy in the Burns that had this stuff, which is, he said, how much of this do you want? I said, well, can you just give me 2 or 3 of every color? And I wish I'd have taken more because he was kind of getting rid of it. This is really interesting colors. Look at how green, it's green and it's got this tips on it. Now, to me, this kind of thing is just really interesting for any kind of marabou type fly. But I've got another, let's see, this one right here. God, this one is got really cool. This color right here. And this just says Spirit River. When Spirit River started doing this tipped colors. See how bright that is? Now, to me, this could be an injured fish. So that's why this particular color was real interesting for me. So what I'm going to do today is start back up with this crazy pattern, this color right here. And when I look at marabou, and believe me, not all marabou is the same. I want my marabou, rip this off of here. I was playing around with this and something that occurred to me. I said, Denny, look at my new fly. And he's going, yeah, Sherry, that's not a new fly. And then he said, I said, but isn't this cool? He said, yeah, but do you want to make it better? I said, how could it be better? I mean, he said, move. Everything has to move. So if you're lake fishing and you got to move, you want this marabou to move. Well, if you get to some of the fly shops and you look at the woolly boogers that are in there, and you see the tails, let me get rid of this piece right here. The tails in these woolly boogers are supposed to be a leech. This is what they look like. It's right here. All these woolly boogers have this stiff tail. Well, if it's a leech and it's had this long, this isn't the tail of a leech. I mean, they're moving and they're slime balls, right? So I look for marabou that is really, really soft. So this stuff right here, if you look at it, it is really, so what do you use for the tail? You don't use the stiff stuff. You use this stuff right here. This really soft part of the marabou feather. So what I do, get this guy right. I want some tips. I'm going to hang on to this. Hold it right there and pull away. and then grab the end. Lo and behold, you have a tail that moves instead of the stiff tail. Now, the other thing that's really nice about Marabou, especially if you get the kind that's moving, and of course, I want a little bit more than that. I want more tail than that. So I'm going to grab another batch and pull. Now see this Marabou, I want to make it as long as I can right now. You think, well, woolly boogers don't have these really long tails, but well, mine do. And they really, really work too. Because if I find I'm getting a short, what I call a short shot, the fish will come up and grab it, and they'll grab the very ends instead of grabbing the hook where the hook point is. You can grab this Marabou and just pinch it off and make the tail shorter. So what I do is I start all of my woolly boogers or streamer patterns. I start with this way too long tail because I can change it on the fly, which is, I like being able to manipulate a pattern and change it without even having to go back to my vise. So that's what this long tail on this fly does for you. I'm going to tie that down. And these colors right here, yeah, I'd probably tie this on a bass hook, because bass, I was raised since I was just a little kid. I was raised on the bayou down in Florida, swampland, you know, lots of snakes, but big wide mouth bass. And they would hit anything that got in their way. And so my daddy taught me how to fish for bass. I just wish I was a fly tyer when I was that young. I would have really gotten creative. But we were fishing mostly poppers, and of course it was spinning gear at that time. So anyway, now what we want this body to do, and you can use anything you want, it doesn't matter. What you want to use is something that's going to make the body, when it collapses and you pull and you get this guy moving in the water, you want this Marabou to go bloop and poof out. So the way you do that is you put an underbody of some sort of chenille. And I use this stuff. I like using material that you can get in a fly shop that isn't really difficult, like the last pattern. The pheasants are really cheap. So polar chenille is really popular. And so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and use this color. Let's see, well, maybe I want to use this color. Oh, maybe I'll use purple. Oh, let's use purple. So I went crazy with polar chenille in the fly shop. Of course, working in a fly shop, it was, oh gee, it was an experience because Jeff and I had a really good deal. And at the end of every year, he would say, okay, Sherry, where are we? And, you know, he owed me for tying flies and teaching. And I said, well, you know, it's been 12 months. I think I owe you $150. And he goes, I really like this deal. So it ended up quite a great relationship. And I would still be teaching there, except COVID scared me away. I didn't get fired. I just was afraid to go in the shop. So what I'm going to do right now is just tie this down. So all you're doing is getting something to make this this Marabou poof out. So it's got a little bit of an edge to it. So you can see how you can pull those fibers to one side. That's the way it's made. And you palmer it just like you would Marabou or anything else that you're going to palmer. But you're just going to pull those fibers out to the back. See how they want to stick out? That makes this pattern, I mean, you can just really rip and get so many of these things done. I always keep a variety of these flies tied up and ready to go. Because you never know when you stop doing dry flies, you can block into these puppies, tie them down. So I just use them and then I give them away, of course. Because they're an easy tie and it hasn't taken you 3 hours to tie it. So all that's going to do is to have this help stick things out. Now I'm going to go back to my source. Now the other important part about this is you're going to palmer this. Well, when you palmer this stuff, you have to think opposite, because you're going to tie it in by the tip, which is really not really there. So you have to pull this back and find out just how far. You look at this, you can get really skinny right here. So it's like a fragile breaking point. So you want to get, but you also want to use all of this area, all the way from there, all the way back. So as you're going to pull this back, and let's see if I think it'll hang in there if I cut it off right there. So I'm going to snip this, right? Oops. There. Now I'm going to tie it down. Now this looks all weird in the front, but let me close this chat window here for a minute so I can see you guys. I can see the full screen. Now I've got this guy tied in. I'm going to use my little water can over here to get some of these feathers out of the way. Tie it down. None of this matters up here because it looks all, oh, it's not perfect. It's not going to pass muster with anybody, but you're going to cover that up. So this is my favorite handy dandy hackle plier. I'm frugal with hackle pliers, but I truly believe that if you can save money on something that's easy to operate, you go ahead and do it. Now you want the curve of the sky face towards the back. Make sure you got it facing the right way. And here's the fun part where all the feathers go everywhere. And you do it just like you're combing your hair. Make sure I have this right. I think I do. Let me turn it around. Yeah, it's good. I'm gonna pull it. Let it slide through your fingers. And come around. It doesn't look too good when you first start, but it comes out beautifully. You just fluff it. Hang on to it. Come around. Fluff it. If it really gets in the way and you get too many trapped feathers, then you just use your handy dandy bodkin and pull them out. And I don't need that. I made this long enough where I'm going to run out of space here. That's good. I don't like running out of materials once I've started wrapping something. And we're going to dump this thing in water. When I'm finished. Of course, I let go of it. You're supposed to do that at least once during a demo. You know those rules, right? I'm getting close to the front, so I'm going to hold it right there. And when you wrap this down, you just come right over top of everything. And tie it down. Doesn't matter how it bunched up it is, because all this part is just going to flow back. I'm going to get rid of this excess right here. And you just clean up the front because you're going to put another collar on here. And this is also where, if you're going to break a thread or cut your bobbin off, this is where you do it in a demo. And it's also where you can get really creative with the collar. And with any kind of woolly boogers or streamers and stuff like that, you think, wow, you've got a lot of thread on there. Well, it doesn't matter on a streamer. They eat it anyway. So now we've got it flowing right. You see how these fibers have that marabou sticking out a little bit. So if you look at a shape of a leech or anything, it has a bigger body here and a narrower tail. So now I'm going to go here and I'll show you how to put together this really cool head. And it's I love collars because collars are part of, I guess, my so much Atlantic salmon fly stuff goes on. You got to have a collar. Well, that just went right over into my streamers. So I picked out a color that's going to be complement that. And so because I've had lots of different guinea colors. And I'm going to need just a little bit, not a whole lot. So I'm going to trim that off. And then I got my tie-in point right there. Tie down on it. And that's it. In my handy dandy Radio Shack. Inexpensive. Hackle
Now,
Plier.
I'm off the program now, I guess. I don't know.
I can hear you.
Oh,
We ate a couple of marshmallows, but just what?
I can hear a dog. A dog barking. You just use a bodkin to untrap those feathers, those trapped fibers. Let me come back. And then tie down on it. Get rid of the excess. So you can see how this, once you get that on there, you kind of separate that guinea. So it goes spotted all the way around. Let me go ahead and build up this head. Lots of thread. You can use, in fact, in this case, I'll probably use my handy dandy permanent marker. If you have anything that's showing up that you don't want to show up, you just put the permanent marker on it. And then whip finish. So when you see this, I'm kind of excited about seeing how this looks, because I haven't put these colors together before. This is kind of a new thing. Okay. Now I'm going to go have a talk with Sally here. And that's our finished fly. Now here's the most fun part about this whole thing, is sticking it in the water. I'm going to go ahead and take it off of here. Grab hold of it. Okay, we're going in the dunk tank. Change cameras. You guys can see this in the dunk tank. That's what it really looks like. Now, if you look at what happened to it, see how it all kind of went together? Now you've got this shiny stuff right here, and you got all this streaky stuff here, and this long tail. Look at that. Comes
You need
off
to
the
switch
end.
Sherry, would you
cameras.
go to the other camera,
Oh.
please?
Duh. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at this. Oh, this really looks good. You guys can't see it. There we go. See how all this mixes together? And you got all these streaks and this really long tail. When this moves through the water, you get all this action camera and off it goes. So depending on what colors you pick, and this Marabou collapses, but then when you move it through the water, it undulates like a any kind of critter that they're going to eat that goes through a lake. Lake patterns are great. You tie these all in brown or all in black, the same thing. But if you put it on a steelhead hook, you can tie the same fly on a steelhead. You can catch a bass with it, put it on a bass hook, which is why I created that pattern like it was. As soon as you get it wet, everything changes, especially if you use UV material. The whole image gets different. And that's what I truly believe. If you're going to experiment with these, so let me turn around the other side. If you experiment with your colors and then dunk them in water and see what happens, you go, wow, I like that, or I don't like that, or why did I put a red body on there? This would look better in green. So that's why you have to have what I call creative material choices. So you get all the colors and then hope for the best when you get it home. Oh God. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So do you guys have questions and stuff that you'd like to, or any chat you'd like to do?
Sherry, just because of you, I went looking for that pheasant on eBay and I
Yeah.
found it and I told you all about it. I also found a Reeves pheasant that I didn't have. And so I just spent $30 getting another pheasant skin.
I got you to
Thanks,
spend
Sherry. I
money.
didn't need one, but I got it.
I see Jim's got his up there on the screen.
Oh, yeah, a little caddis.
That's beautiful. But you see those colors, how those colors can go together? And of course, that's the nemesis of any fly tire. You go in a fly shop or you go online and you see something, you go, oh, that's just so pretty. But you get it home, you think, well, what was I going to do that with that? And so I have this arsenal of stuff that I give to my guild members when they come over to tie on a Saturday. We just pass out whatever material. They go into my closet and they find, they say things are always, everybody's got something hidden in their closet. Well, I do. I have lots of things hidden in my closet, but you're all welcome to, if there's something that I have that you need, just send me an email and say, do you have any of this? Do you have any of that? I've got plenty of stuff to give away between now and when I croak it, whenever, but I can't tie it all. I'm not young enough to do that. So I'd like to invite you all to be a member of our club.
Actually, I was looking for FFI's YouTube show that they had tonight, and I bumped into you, and I just stayed here.
Is that right? So who am I
Yeah.
talking to?
Jim Moore.
Oh, Jim. So, yeah, well, I appreciate that you did, but we're going to do these hybrid classes, and I'm going to try to have one as soon as it starts really cold. As it gets cold again after summer and fishing is over. So we might have a guild meeting in November, and it'll be hybrid. We'll have Zoom and and club members, but it's an all-day tie, so we kind of hang out together all day long. And I see Jim's got a skin up there. Yes, look at that guy. Now, Jim, are you going to use that up by the time you crook? You don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm gonna use it the 15th and 16th when I go on that Project Healing Waters fishing trip up to Seattle.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
So you'll tie some of these up there. Well, you tie before you go though, right, Jim?
oh yeah.
Okay.
I'll tie when I get up there too, but because I always take my tie and stuff with me.
Yeah. So all of you guys, I appreciate you being here tonight. There's 15, which is a nice number, especially if you say you're going to tie a woolly book or something, you lose audience. But this Mrs. Simpson's a good fly, and be creative when you start tying these streamers. There is no rules,
No, no.
absolutely no rules. And if you've ever met Scott Sanchez, you know that there's no rules.
I tie the ugliest flies, but they catch fish.
Yeah, and we are going to have our expo in March of 2023. And you'll all be hearing from me because now that you've been on my Zoom list, you're also going to get propaganda about the expo when it comes along.
Okay.
And so we'll be offering up a whole lot of stuff.
And
And
I'll take any opportunity I can to tie.
yes, and so that's why we're doing this too. I'll be looking for you guys to give me suggestions for next year because we have all these really talented instructors. And we're going to add a few and see if we can dig a few guys out and say, hey, why don't you come out and help us out here and tie and get some new faces and new ideas? Because you always learn something, no matter
Oh, yeah.
who's doing what. You see something a little bit different. And there's one thing I didn't share with
I
you
see
guys
Mike
yet.
Dukas is on here.
I got to share this with you. Now, you probably know what it is.
Yeah, I got 2 or 3 of them.
Well, especially if you tie with Marabou.
Yeah.
Marabou gets everywhere. It's all over my clothes. And so I just cleaned off my clothes, my desk. I use these people like, oh, I've got this suit on today and I have to go to a meeting. We use it to clean up our feathers. This is
I use it to clean up my cats.
yeah, this anyway. So I gotta, that's my only tip for tonight. I've learned this from Al Beatty. He's gotten this tip thing that he's doing. And now I think, well, now Al's doing tips. I got to do tips too. But this is the only thing I could come up with. It didn't have anything to do with tying.
It's a good one, Sherry. I'm going to put it on my list.
Are you really? Find something new, right? There's nothing gimmick, but I was having so much fun playing around with the Marabou. I've just made a mess of my whole area. So it's going to be quite a deal to clean it up. But I enjoy anything that a feather, a gadget, a gizmo. I'm always interested. So hopefully you guys can come up with some other things and keep this all going.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Al's got a really good one coming up. Al, you want to talk about that?
Do what?
Your next deal.
There's
the
one
fishing trip?
tomorrow night, and Jim
Yeah.
Ferguson is going to wow us
Yeah.
tomorrow night with DeVoe. Well, Jim, why don't you tell him what you're going to do? It's good. It's
Let me
some stuff
spotlight
on
Jim.
yeah, there you go. Spotlight him.
Let me see if I
I've
can
got
find
one
him.
really cool tip coming, Sherry. So you might want to watch for the tip.
Oh, because that's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, I've already got it figured out. It comes from a guy by the name of Ed Wolf in the 1970s in Spokane, Washington.
Okay, let me pin him too. Add spotlight. Okay, Jim.
Yeah. I got more than one, Jim?
Ferguson.
Oh,
I'm looking for Jim Ferguson. Jim, hello. Unmute yourself. He's talking, but we can't hear
Hey,
him.
Jim, unmute yourself.
There. What I've got in the vise is a feather from the halfway down the rump of an Amgold pheasant, which is a cross between a golden pheasant and a Lady Amherst.
Oh,
And this particular feather with the red up above and the yellow on it makes a fairly decent substitution for the
oh, I can see the color better now.
yeah. Let me.
It's
let
got
me
the
get
red
this.
tips.
Yeah, makes for a Indian crow substitute. But
So
what I'm
tell
gonna,
us about your deal with owls.
yeah, what I'm gonna do tomorrow is there's a pattern called the Canadian Black Dose.
Mhm.
And Poole Jorgensen messed around with trying to come up with substitutions for more expensive feathers. Like, normally you would take swan or, and then if you can't get swan, then you use turkey or goose. And if you can't get goose, you go to turkey. But for the winging of an Atlantic salmon pattern, where you have to marry them together. And he played around with trying to find a way of doing some things with hackle instead of the feather slips.
Mhm.
And we look at the name and it's spelled like it would be Defoe, but it's DeFeo is his
Oh,
name.
really?
Yeah,
I've always said Defoe.
I know.
Me too.
But he's I think it's a French. But it's DeFeo. I made that mistake talking all about it, and somebody really corrected me in public.
All
No,
right.
it's really pronounced this way, Jim. But
So
he
that's
used,
going to be good.
yeah, he used the DeFeo technique, was kind of like that hackling technique that you've been working with, where he used it on throats of his Atlantic salmon patterns.
Oh, yeah, that you were telling me that was something about the hackle hand that
Yeah.
I was using. He was
And
one
what-
of them that did that.
And what he ended up with was something like this,
Uh-huh.
where those the red, the yellow, the blue, those are all from hackles.
Oh, okay.
And so the technique that I'm going to show tomorrow will be using that technique of putting the hackles on and or prepping them beforehand, and you end up with a very multicolored wing. So you're not using all those swan and goose feathers.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Look at that.
And there was a well-known back in the, I think it was back in the 1800s sometime, when one of the, I don't know if it was Kelson or if it was somebody else, but anyway, to get the colors, they would have a nice pattern of different colored slips married together, and he would take the fly and then he would take a needle and separate each of the fibers.
I think
And
so.
you ended up with this effect. But this is a way of doing it just using your slopping.
Wow, you can just create anything like that with
Yeah.
whatever colors you want.
It and it works in the water and compacts down, but it kind of gives you, rather than just one strip of color, it gives you kind of a interesting effect of it, the way it's mixed up. So that's the process technique that we'll be talking about tomorrow.
Okay. Well, Al, how many more of your how how many more of your classes are you going to have?
We're gonna go until the first week of May. And then
Mhm.
after that, we'll do them hit or miss when we're home, but we've got a few fishing trips in mind, so they'll be
Okay.
hit or miss, but up until the 1st of May, we'll be going every week.
All right. Well,
That's,
so,
that's the rump of that.
oh,
Ham
that's
gold.
beautiful.
And then, of course, the big problem, see that's this tail?
Hmm.
There's an advantage of crossing those two pheasants. Golden pheasant doesn't marry worth a dang, you know, they always split on you. And the Lady Amherst pheasant, it does a little better, but it's got the wrong color. So when you cross the two, you'll get 3 different shades, and that's why you almost need 3 skins. One will
Oh,
come
great.
out very close to the golden pheasant color, and then this one came out very close to the Lady Amherst. And then they'll get one that's halfway between. But the nice thing about them is they marry much, much, much better in the wing than either one by themselves.
You wouldn't have a picture of the bird itself. Is it, they're crossed, like crossbred?
Yeah, it's they've got a couple.
Well, maybe in your
Dalkey, I got
presentation.
this skin from Dalkey, but they do have them online. You can, if you plug in Amgold pheasant, you probably will get a picture of one.
Oh, okay.
You know, like in this one, it's got the head of the Lady Amherst,
Hmm.
but it's also got in here these colors, which are from the golden pheasant.
Wow.
But you don't have the, you know, and then what's really nice too is I bought this one because of those orange feathers right there called the swords.
Hmm.
They're long and narrow, and I use it on one of that pattern that I tie for the Semper Fi.
Yes, it's more of a spay.
And yeah, and it's hard to find, you know, there aren't that many of them on the bird, and these aren't cheap. You're not going to get them for $19. This one was $75.
Well, you can go ahead and take those feathers out of it, Jim, and then I'll give you 50 for it after that.
Okay, well, is anybody got any other questions or suggestions for me as I start planning next year? What do you like to see more of or less of? You know, I'll be trying to put all that together. You can certainly send me an email with your suggestions because we like to get creative. And I've got to thank all the instructors this year that have been very, very good at giving me the patterns ahead of time. I was the worst offender this time because I didn't get it out until the day before the class. I was just a little bit busy around here, but yeah, so everybody's been very good and detailed on the handouts, which is really great. And if we get our website up and going, hopefully by the time we launch things in September, October, that our guild will have our own website.
I think Jim Moore has a picture
Oh,
of.
look, he's got a picture of the
gold
bird.
on his phone. Yeah.
Look at that. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Why don't you spotlight him and not and take the spotlight off
Yeah,
of Jim? and I?
Jim, let me
Yeah.
let me spot you. Hang on. Add spotlight. That's the bird. Look at all
Yep.
the red chest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
And Jim, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Jim, unmute yourself, Jim. Jim, unmute. Has to unmute and unmute yourself. He's working on it.
But I like the variety you've done on your program.
Oh, look
Sherry.
at that. Oh, boy, what a beautiful bird. Well, Jim,
Yes, they shouldn't. They sure are.
yeah, they're a beautiful bird. Well, you guys have anything else for us tonight? I really appreciate you being here, and send me suggestions because we're on a roll, and this is nice to have people get together and tie and share all the scoop, and Alan his tips. I have to go to the classes just because I need the tip. Always. So if you don't have anything else tonight, I'm going to say goodnight, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you for
Sherry.
sticking around, and
Thanks for all your hard work, Sherry.
well, it is
Yeah.
fun. You know, I wouldn't do this if I didn't think it was fun or I didn't like doing it. It's just
No
too much,
kidding.
and it's added another dimension to my life, which is, oh, of course I needed that, but yeah, another dimension of my life. And I thank you for helping me get all set up with my videos and everything, and getting better at it, and managing when you actually demo is something you have to get used to. So thank you so much, everybody.
Yep,
Thanks,
thank you.
Sherry.
Good night, Sherry.
Yeah.
Good
Good
night.
Thanks,
night.
Kathy. Nice to see you. Maybe we'll tie on Saturdays again for a while.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I might launch that again pretty soon. So stay
Cool.
tuned.
Great.
Bye.
Yeah, we'll see you Saturday, Sherry.
Yes. Saturday.